Okay, well, good evening, good evening, good evening. My mic was muted. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. Those who are on YouTube, those who are joining on Facebook, Instagram, and also TikTok. Um, I must apologize for being late, but I put a notice out there that I'd be on late tonight because I was at this Franklin Graham event at Victoria Dock um, Excel Center, and it was a very interesting and powerful event with CC Winan was there, and Michael W. Smith, I believe, was there as well, and some other artists was there, and Franklin Graham preached the gospel as well. So that was a very moving and very great event. Tonight, the topic is going to be on the Middle East. I wanted to tap on this whole issue regarding the Middle East and the war, Caribbean, and also the implication of the Caribbean. As the Caribbean have any sort of impact? Will it impact the Caribbean as well? And I'm going to be joined a little later by Miss Donna Mattis. And Donna Mattis she's an educator, Pan-Africanist, Palestinian activist, and member of the Advocates Network. And we're going to have a discussion shortly on that issue. The other thing I also wanted to tap on is a very interesting discussion, and it's around the same Dennis Chung and the Financial Investigation Division. And somehow this topic seemed to be, I don't know if it is dying out or is it intensifying, but I believe a key question need to be asked. And I don't know if this question is being asked. And one of the things I will say is this. In regards to the ability of Mr. Chung to perform the task as the technical officer, technical chief of the FID, that is something to be known. I don't have the knowledge and the understanding if he's able to do it. But I think the question is this Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission in amending or changing the job description. The question is, why did they change it? Who told them to change it? And can that information be disclosed to the public? Because I was thinking about it, and it is the Public Service Commission. Yes, the Public Service Commission. So therefore, it is public. It's a service to the people. So therefore, what's happening there? So that is a very interesting bit there, I must say. So that is something that will happen. Now, I was thinking about the Middle East crisis and the global, the ripple effect of the global thing, and the Middle East war, Caribbean global ripples. You know, it is like shining a spotlight on the complex web of tensions in the Middle East. I know they're sending shockwaves, yeah, sending shockwaves across the world, all the way to the Caribbean. And I say the Caribbean because the world has an impact. I believe that the impact of CARICOM plays a fundamental part. And I believe the new chairman of CARICOM is Mr. Andrew Holness. Andrew Holness is the chairman for CARICOM, taking over from Mia Motley. Now, the question is, how strong will that voice be? Is it going to be strong like Mia Motley as well in order to take the whole issue to task as how the world is moving? From economic instability to humanitarian crisis, the ripple effects of war know no borders. And if one take on a journey through the Middle East, conflict is impacting nations in the Caribbean. And what this means for global politics, trade, and security. The Bank of England governor recently kept the rate at 4.25. And one of the reasons why they kept the rate at 4.25, people believe that it would have dropped, is because they're being cautious as to what is happening in the Middle East. If you remember, a lot of the interest rate went up during the course of the Ukraine and Russian conflict. Lots of prices went up and everything like that. So now they're watching and being cautious as to what is happening in the Middle East. So we're going to try to dive into some of the intricate dynamics at play. And I'm going to hear from Miss Donna Mattis, all being well, to navigate these turbulent waters. And it's a very tricky subject at times. It's a very tricky subject because many people sometimes do not want to wade into these waters. It is like during the time of the COVID period, many people were cautious about letting their hand be known, whether they are for or against, because the narrative was for the vax. And if you were against it, you were deemed to be un persona non grata, someone who is, not cancelled and everything like that. So in this particular case, with this particular subject, if one is for, what should I say? If one is for the, Gaza and Palestinian, you're deemed to be anti-Semitic. If one is for Israel, then one is seen to be on the other side. But can there be an objective sort of discussion in this particular area? And I believe it is time for discussions like these to take place. Because when I was with some ladies in the park earlier today, and one of the things that we said was, it would be so great if world leaders would take a walk in the park, hand in hand, and try to somehow come to some sort of solutions instead of fighting wars. Yeah? Instead of fighting wars. And it is so crucial at this time because what they're talking about, sometimes you hear the word conscription, which is banting around subtly, because with the advent of the Ukraine and the Russia, they're talking about those things. Now, it is worth thinking about, and it is worth talking about these areas because I don't believe people in the UK want a war, and I believe in America, President Trump said, "I don't want the people, and I don't want to take this nation down a particular route of war." So we're going to look at some of the intricacies as to this whole conflict, why it is, why shouldn't it be, and let's move on. So I'm going to bring in Ms. Donna Mattis shortly. And ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take it. And thank for those who are, please share this live, and then we'll take the discussion much further. Okay? Thank you. Hi, good evening. How are you, Miss Mattis? I think you're on mute. You're unmuted. You're muted. If you unmute yourself so we can hear you. Let me see. There you are. I can hear you now. It's gone. It's gone. You just unmuted, but you went back again. You're unmuted. So if you press whatever you pressed, there you are. You just did it a while ago. That's it.
Don't move. It's on mute. It's not muted now.
No, I know. I was gonna say, don't touch that dial. Stay right there. Don't move.
Right. It's the device. It does strange things. I really didn't touch it.
That's all right. There are strange things. Happening in this world. We can try to. How are you? Miss Mattis? How are you today?
I am trying to keep sanity.
You're trying to keep sanity.
Trying to be, and trying to be hopeful.
Yes. Well,
against. I mean, Bob Marley said that sung a long time ago. So much trouble in the world. Well, you should see it now.
yes, so much, yes, and those were very prophetic songs. I'm trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
those are songs which resonate today. If that song was written yesterday or today, and pushed out there in the market, you would say this resonate
Mm-hmm.
today. and
Mm-hmm.
and and what is happening in the world today, it is very, as I said, is troubled. It is very troubling at the same time. But one of the reasons why I wanted to speak is because I like to venture sometime into areas where even angels fear to tread. you know and the whole Middle East and the whole conflict and even the implications for the Caribbean. I just want to pick your brain because I know you're like a secret weapon in the who do a lot of research and writings, especially with the Advocates Network as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if Donna, you can I don't know if you can maybe say a bit about what you do, and then we just go straight into it. Yeah.
Well, I teach. I'm
Yeah.
really a teacher
Yes.
of history,
Yes.
European and West Indian history. I haven't
Mm.
taught in a while. Used to teach at the high school level. I also used to write for the newspaper, a
Okay.
newspaper out here. Yeah. I am. I have been. I think I was born an activist.
Yes.
I
So
yeah.
like it's not like it's not like it's not like from your as you came out, you started to be active. Active.
I think just well, I was always a rebel. In my crib, I was a rebel, so I was told by my mother. And when I came out, it was when I came out of.
Sorry about that. My apologies there. Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Mm.
Sorry, Donna. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I've always you see I grew up in a household where they were always discussing politics and
Mm,
history.
mm,
So at that time as a child I may not have understood, but I was listening and it was registering, you know.
mm.
So I was like the only 7 year old in my class who knew about US politics and Jamaican politics and global politics. So
Yes.
yeah, so activism has always been a part of my, as I said, I was born an activist. I think I was
Yeah.
born an activist.
Yes.
I came up on the
Mm.
Palestinian struggle in sixth form when I was doing A level sixth form, A level history. And from then I have always been, you know, interested in the Middle East because we studied the Middle East and in
Yes.
the Palestinian issue for in particular. So I write about it, and I have
Mm.
been an activist, and I'm an as I said, I'm an activist. So
Yes.
I don't I consider myself a citizen of the world. So I find myself being involved in injustice, and wherever I see injustice, I am, no matter race, color, creed, you know, it concerns me because, as I think was Martin Luther King who said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's so
Yeah.
true. Mm.
Yeah.
So mm,
Okay.
so
Um.
that's
Yeah. Can I just ask a question? Are you hearing
mm.
an echo? Are you hearing an echo when
No,
I speak? You're not hearing an echo. Okay, that's
no,
no problem. Okay.
no, I'm not.
Okay. Let's just go straight into it. What's your overview of what's happening in the Middle East at present? Because it has escalated to a point where they said the world is on a knife edge. But it had a beginning, there's a middle, and are we aiming to an end? Yeah.
Um, the Middle East, the Middle East, the Middle East. It's just like the Middle East is that troubled child of the world, you know. I when I think of Gaza, and it amazes me, especially when I go on in the social media spaces and I see Africans and I see oh, it doesn't concern me. It's not my problem. Let them sort out their issues. But to me, as goes Gaza, goes the world. As goes Gaza, goes the global south, of which we're a part. Gaza, the issue, the Palestinian issue needs to be placed within the context of liberation struggles. And if it is placed within that context, then it pulls us in, because we in the Caribbean, we were carved out of the genocide of indigenous people. That's how we came. We came. That was the beginning of our formation. This struggle in Palestine has been placed within the Western media circles, within the Western political leadership, as a struggle against, as a religious struggle. It's not a religious struggle. It's a struggle against imperialism. It's a struggle against settler colonialism. And that very much centers the Caribbean within that struggle. We ourselves, we were given a flag and we were told that we are independent. But how independent are we? The imperialists may not be visibly present in our daily lives, but how much do we control our economies? How much do we control our destiny? So I believe that you have to place the Gaza, the struggle in Gaza and the Palestinian issue and the whole issue of the Middle East conflict.
Okay, we just got a frozen there. I guess what you're saying, we just have to place it in the context or something of that nature. I'm here talking with Miss Donna Mattis.
Within that. Hello?
Yes, we sort of had a glitch a while ago, but keep talking, yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. So first, I would like to say that it must be placed within the context of national liberation struggles, and if it is placed within that context, then we belong to that struggle. It is no different from the Haitian Revolution. It is no different from the national liberation struggles in Africa, in the 70s, in Angola, in Mozambique, the ANC struggle in apartheid South Africa, the Mau Mau rebellion, the Maroon Wars, everything. It is part. It's a microcosm of that larger struggle that we're still going through, because we think that we're independent and we think that we've been emancipated, but the mission is not accomplished. Mission has not been accomplished. It hasn't even started yet. A lot of people need to and a lot of people think that because we got independence, political independence, and then that's it, mission accomplished. So it must be placed within that context of national liberation struggle. And secondly, I believe it must be placed within the context of the resistance to Western imperialism, because that is what is happening in Gaza, has been happening in Gaza for over 77 years, and that is exactly what is happening with this whole attack on Iran. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. And another thing I must say, it's not. It's not Israel versus Iran. It's the whole Western alliance versus Iran through their vassal state, their proxy state, Israel. And what is at the foundation of all of this, and why I say it is important to the Caribbean? It's control of resources. It's extractivism. It is it is it's to further capitalist gains, call it that. You know? So it's not just as simple as people would perceive it to be, or as it is articulated by mainstream media, which
Yes.
has which has which has it's been so disgraceful. It's not that they haven't always been like this, but October 7 has really, really, really ripped the mask off the faces of the whole media ecosystem, the whole Western alliance. They have all of these institutions and systems and rules based international order, everything that they have established since the Second World War. It has all been a lie. We've seen that,
Yes.
you know. So it's as if the world that we thought we lived in just never existed. It never existed, and I don't know if the eyes of the majority of the people in the world is, I don't know if they understand exactly how the world has changed since October 7. I don't know.
Can I just ask? As I mentioned, we're talking about like the implications, like for the Caribbean. And
Mhm.
years ago, you had persons like Michael Manley, whose voice would be very strong when it comes on to injustice. He spoke about
Yeah.
South Africa. Mia Motley, for argument's sake, has been speaking up very strongly on certain things. With Andrew Holness now the chair of CARICOM, do you
Mhm.
see the Caribbean or the CARICOM coming out and speaking up again? Because even in the UK, David Lammy, who is the foreign secretary, some are saying he has gone a bit far, but he has been sort of raining some hell thunder on Israel. At the same time, and
Mhm.
Israel come back and say that these guys are being brainwashed or whatever like that. But do you see a CARICOM under Andrew Holness making any strong statements when we look and we see what is happening before our very eyes?
I don't expect anything from CARICOM. If I'm to take Haiti, CARICOM's response to Haiti as an example of CARICOM's inner stream of consciousness, I don't have any faith in CARICOM.
Mm,
CARICOM, the Dominican Republic, is maybe a shade different, a shade less than Israel
mm,
when it comes to Haitians. the Dominican Republic is practicing carrying out ethnic cleansing of Asians right across the way from
Mm.
Jamaica, from yeah. And the Dominican Republic is one of our main trading partners.
Yes.
Her Holiness invited the former president of the Dom Rep. I can't remember his name now. And that was while he was brutalizing Haitians,
Yes.
expelling them, expelling Haitians born in the Dominican Republic. And he feted him. He was on a state visit, and he gave him the highest order that the Jamaica can bestow on a foreign leader. He did
Yes.
that. Mhm. And you see the response to Haiti. CARICOM, in my opinion, is just a tool of Western imperialism. I'm sorry. It's a tool of Western imperialism. So I don't expect anything radical. These are not the days of Michael Manley. And
Mm.
even with Miss Motley, I was having a discussion with somebody just yesterday about Miss Motley. And I don't know if it is. She says things, and I know that she's the darling of everybody in the Caribbean, maybe perhaps the darling of everybody in the global South. But the problem I have with Miss Motley is that it's performative rage, performative action, and performative action is not activism. She went to the UN, and she walked out when Netanyahu came in, and they walked out. She declared, I think, that genocide was happening in Gaza.
Gaza.
But the thing is, CARICOM countries continue to maintain diplomatic ties and trade ties with Israel. Israel, a state on trial for genocide, for war crimes. And
Mm.
we have not, like the rest of the world, there haven't been any sanctions imposed on Israel.
Mm.
After Russia invaded the Ukraine, 20,000 sanctions were imposed on Russia.
Mm.
None has been imposed on Israel. Has been protected in diplomatic circles. It's been protected at the UN. It's given a free hand to murder,
Mm.
And here in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, here it was brought to my attention today that the Jamaica Constabulary Force, they buy their arms from Israel. They had some sort of exhibition the other day where they were showing off
Mm.
all of their
Goods. Set up.
ammunitions
Yeah.
and guns and ammunitions and whatnot that they purchased from Israel with great pride. They have government. There's a firm here called Israel Tech, was involved in agriculture, some
Is is
developing
Israel
agriculture.
Tech. Israel Tech. Israel Tech. You said,
Israel,
yeah. Yes.
yeah, Israel Tech. Mhm. So I don't expect anything coming out of CARICOM, much less Andrew Holness, who has
Mm.
proven to be. I can't even describe how angry I am, because Jamaica has always been at the forefront, as I said, of the
Yeah.
liberation struggle, because it's a liberation struggle. Jamaica was the first country in the world in 1959 under Norman Manley to impose economic sanctions on South Africa. We have
Yeah.
always stood with oppressed people because we are oppressed people ourselves. We came
Mm.
out of oppression and we're still being oppressed, as I said, because we don't control our resources. We don't control our economy. I mean, people, the ordinary man may look at it and said it's oh, it's internal, but it's not all internal. We operate within a global economy that we are peripheral players.
Mm.
We're nowhere in charge of our destiny. And so the resistance continues. And that is why I say that we have to pay attention to what is happening in Gaza. We have to pay attention to what is happening in the Middle East, because it's us. It's we. It's we in the Caribbean. It's we in the global South. And if you notice, they're sending us a message with Israel, at least in my opinion. They're sending us a
Yeah.
message. It's a well organized, well curated performance. Call it dress rehearsal. It's as if they're saying, with everything that has happened and with all the laws that have been pushed aside, uh,
Mm.
everything that they established, they now call it the rules-based international order. Everything that they themselves established has been just pushed aside, and they're quietly saying to you, to us in the global south, because that's where all of their machinations and their desire for control of resources is played out. They're saying to us, listen,
Mm.
watch and listen, and don't try it. Don't try it, because when push comes to shove, this is what will happen to you. The level of slaughtering, the level of it's just insane what is happening in Gaza. I can't
So what?
even watch anymore.
Yes. So what you're saying, it is like you just alluded to it. It's like a dress rehearsal to a certain extent,
Mm.
as to the implication as to how things can be if people delve down that route. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining those on TikTok, those on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I'm with Miss Donna Mattis, educator, Pan-Africanist, Palestinian activist, and member of the Advocates Network. I wanted to have a discussion in regards to the Middle East war and the Caribbean global ripples, how it's affecting the Caribbean. And we just pointed out a while ago, the viewpoint is that CARICOM, which should be a strong force, a strong bloc, Miss Mattis have no confidence with CARICOM, and worse off with Mr. Holness as the chair of CARICOM. But Donna, do you think that, you know, in light of the Trump factor and the national thinking, Africa really and truly should really be, you're a Pan-Africanist. Africa should really be, and maybe through Abraham Tree, should be pulling together in a strong way, and then linking also with CARICOM, Caribbean, to form a formidable block, isn't it? Don't we have that strength in that numbers?
Mhm. I think the problem is, there is a
Mm.
disconnect between the people and their political leadership.
Yes.
How the people understand, the people are against genocide. You see it.
Mm.
They've been
Mm.
marching. I mean, it's amazing that they have sustained their opposition for
Yes.
almost 2 years. When it started, I was so apprehensive. I said, well, it may go on for a few days and a few weeks,
Yes.
a few months
Mm.
top. And people would forget. But the people are resolute. You can see how they're responding to the Iran's retaliation against
Mm.
Israel. You can see how they're
Mm.
responding to it. So there is a disconnect between the political leadership and the people. Now the thing is, how do we get the political leadership to listen to us? Because they're not listening to us.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if they've ever. I have this argument with people. I don't know if they've ever really listened to us. We tell ourselves that people protest and people power works, but does it really work, or is we're
Mm.
just using that as comfort to ourselves? Because
Trying to.
I remember
Okay.
people
You mean to
march.
say you mean to say comfort to ourselves? So we're all treating ourselves as fools. Comfort ourselves to a fool to a certain extent, isn't it?
Mm.
Feeling that
You
something is
know, I
happening by you out there. Yeah. Go ahead, Miss Mattis.
it's I
Marvin, what's up?
want to believe that we can take to the streets, and we can occupy the streets, and we can protest, and we can effect change. We can make change, but I see people marching, and I saw them marching when Iraq was under attack,
Yes.
was to be.
Especially in the UK
Yeah.
against Blair. Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Hmm. and
So
and
many
and and,
people came
and I
and
was
spoke.
so
Yeah.
full,
Mm.
because for some reason I really believe that democracy existed, that the will
Mm.
of the people would have been respected, because the people were vehemently against an invasion by
Mm.
the Americans. But it never stopped them. And people have been marching now for over 20 months saying ceasefire, stop what is happening. And they've gone ahead, and they have done.
Mm.
They've continued. I see people marching now. This whole Iraq thing is being replayed unbelievably in front of our eyes. Who would have
Yes.
thought that so many years after, they would just flip the script, insert Iran, and there you have the Iraq invasion all over again. And I
Do you
see
know?
people are.
Yeah. Do you know? I follow Don Lemon, and Don Lemon posted something today, and he said he's not trying to say that Benjamin Netanyahu is a liar, but he said he traced back up to many years ago, where the same narrative is in 6 months' time, in 6 weeks' time, that they can do this. They can, and it's the same narrative over so many years in regards to Iran.
Yes.
And and uh,
Mhm.
and you're right about this. With the WMD with Iraq, even when the guys them said they didn't see it, but there was that perception of, that they had to go in there. And right now you're seeing, as you rightly say, something played out before our very eyes. And even I understand that you have people also in Iraq who is sort of not so really happy as to leaders, let's say leaders taking the people down a particular route, not even taking the people, but taking the nation down a particular route. The UK wanting to maybe take the nation down a particular route, when right now I can tell you that the appetite in the UK is not for war. The appetite for the UK in regard to Ukraine is not for boots on the ground or some level of conscription, which they're trying to subtly banter around, Donna, trying to somehow flex their muscles as well. And you're right about this massive disconnect with the leaders. So you vote them in, as we always say, you vote them in for 5 years, but guess what? It's like that's it. You can't talk to them after that. It's happening.
I as I said, I don't know. I don't think democracy I should, maybe what I should say, that democracy to the political directorate is going to the polls every 4 or 5 years, and we
Yes,
we choose. We choose. I've seen people said you go to the polls for 4 or 5 years, and you choose who will oppress you for the next 5 years, because they don't listen to
yes,
you. They don't listen to us.
yes,
And that is that's globally. How do we get them to listen to us? Because they're not listening. Uh
yes,
the even in Jamaica here, even in Jamaica, when you bring it back down to the domestic level, We have opposed so many things in the Africa's network. We've opposed so many things. We have organized things, and it's just like, well, it's a formality. They may recognize, acknowledge what you say, but then they just go ahead and do whatever they want, because I suppose
Yes.
it's their definition of power. Power lies in their hands and not in ours. The only time we have power then is the 4 or 5 years at the polls,
Yes. Like the
because we
pending
can
election for
decide.
argument's sake. Yeah.
Mhm. We can decide to vote you out if we're dissatisfied with you, and vote, the opposition in. But what happens after that? Nothing happens. Nothing happens after that. The people in Europe are marching. The people in the US, um they are marching, and nobody's listening. And I think that the one of the reasons, in my opinion, that they're not listening, is that, as I said before, this is really their fight. They're fighting it. Israel is a front. Israel has always been a front for Western imperialism. So they're fighting to for their very own lives. They're fighting for the preservation of Western imperialism. Because you see, if Israel falls, Western imperialism is going to fall, especially within this new multipolar world order. If Israel is that last piece of the domino, in my opinion, of the Western settler colonial domination and oppression. So if Israel falls, it's going to signal the end of the Western alliance, and that is why they are. So when you see in the UK, it's so strange. It's so strange, because it's as if the whole global elite, the global ruling class, has gone insane. If Israel has been bombing hospitals, destroying hospitals, for example, for over near 2 years, and Iran fires a missile at a military installation placed, embedded in or near a hospital, and it hits the hospital, and these people are looking at us in the world and telling us that Iran has committed a war crime, because you're not supposed to bomb hospitals in conflict. So what has Israel been doing for 20 months? So when you can the level of gaslighting, the level of smokes and mirrors that they're using to, as I said, as they fight for their own preservation. It's just insane when you think of it.
Well, they'll say that one would say it's a bit rich of the prime minister of what he said in comparison to what has been happening in Gaza. Now, what about the one of the popular narrative and the biblical thing whereby they say that Israel is God chosen people, and so therefore no one want to rock that boat, especially from the Christian angle as well. That seems to be one of the strong underbelly factor there. So you have America, you got the Christian nations would sort of, you know, say things which are what should I say? It is wrong of Israel to do that, wrong of Israel to do that, but that's where the lip service is. It just stands there at the lip service and it doesn't go beyond that. What's your take on that bit there?
Well, if American weaponry is what is the enforcer of the Israeli project, then Christianity is what upholds it.
Mm.
Christianity is what Chris. It, I mean, if there's any religious aspect to the whole conflict that has been going on for how many years, near 80 years,
Mm.
it's Christianity. Because Zionists, what did they call them now? Evangelicals, Christian Zionists, Christian evangelicals, whatever they call themselves, have turned a blind eye to the illegalities, to the atrocities that Israel has been committing
Mm.
over 77 years. And why? Because of this belief in the self-fulfilling prophecy. This sometimes I find it so difficult to, I don't even want to entertain this thought about Jews being God's chosen people.
Mm.
One first thing, people say that the Jews mentioned in the Bible are not the Jews living in Israel. They're not the Jews living in Israel.
Mm. Mm.
Secondly, these migrants or immigrants or whatever I want to call themselves are Europeans. Europeans who converted to Judaism,
Mm.
um, adopted the faith. And I just think that what bothers me, I cannot understand how you, as if you're black, uh Chinese, Indian, whatever, because I come across them and I see them Africans, and it's especially, and I see them saying things like, the Jews will never be defeated. Israel will never be defeated, but because they're God's chosen people. And how do you devalue yourself, your own self, to the point where you believe in a God that thinks that has devalued you, dehumanized you, and
Mm.
over the set of people, and has given them that right to do whatever it is, carte blanche, whatever it is that they want to do. If they want to kill, murder, they can.
No.
It's that ideological thinking that I just cannot understand.
Mm.
I can't understand how I can't understand that type of thing. I was on a church panel in November 2023, and they asked for a historical perspective to the conflict, and I was shocked to see the response. I saw men, women, some very old men too, coming up to the mic, and they were saying like, well, Israel has to be on the land. Because if Israel is on the land, once Israel is on the land, it means that the return of Christ. Now I have to ask myself, what kind of God then would allow the massacre, the slaughter of children to fulfill a prophecy? So Christianity is one of the main problems.
Mm.
I saw an interview with the Archbishop of Canterbury in
The late.
2023,
Mm. Yeah.
and they asked him about, you know, the slaughtering, that the butchering that is taking place, and he, of course, he regurgitated that whole narrative, condemning Hamas. What Hamas did was wrong, and Israel has a right to defend themselves. And when the interviewer pushed, and he said, "So what about the Palestinians who are dying?" He said, "Well, we pray for their souls. Pray for their souls. So Palestinians, this is racism, This is racism too. So Palestinians are dehumanized, they're racialized. So their lives are less valuable than those of Jews or those of Israelis, Israeli Jews, whatever they call themselves. Their lives are less valuable. And then there's a complexity of issues that makes this Palestinian conflict so difficult, because these people are fighting so much. They're fighting the physical Israel and the whole Western order, and they're fighting Christianity too. They're fighting Christianity. So, we always have to find some.
I was going to say, what about the like the Middle East? The Middle East is made up of lots of different countries, or so is that. Are they at one, or they are fragmented a bit, like how the African nations are not pulling together? Are the Middle East nations also fragmented? Because they always say sometimes, like, what is happening in Gaza and a lot of the persons there, why can't they go into another of these other countries? I'm talking in the interim. And then what's happening with Iran now? Iran is one who is blasting. I think I heard Pakistan is saying if it goes worse, they're going to actually jump in as well. What about that? I mean, are they also fragmented?
I have Palestinian activist friends, and long before October 7th, I used to get in contention with them, because I said to them, Arab nationalism has failed. It has failed. They have failed the Palestinians. Gone are the days of Nasser and Assad and Faisal of Saudi Arabia. Palestinians are starving now. It's bad now. But Palestinians have been under blockade. Gaza has been under blockade, as you know, for 18 years, 19 years. Nothing comes in, nothing comes out without Israel approval. Israel actually approves the amount of calories that will just barely sustain life in Gaza. So certain things don't come cannot be are not allowed into the thing. Palestinians have been in the various groups that I am associated with. Palestinians have been on the inside, wanting aid, from various, asking for aid.
Yes.
And I used to say to them then, but what about the Arab citizens, the citizens in these other Arab countries, the Oman, the UAE, and all of them? And they told me that they were afraid, because that's a disconnect too. The general population supports the Palestinian, but the ruling is a ruling class. That is very much pro-Israel, or have alliances with Israel. So I say to them then, but you can't be crippled and paralyzed by fear all your
Mm.
life, because
Mm.
the Palestinians resist. They resist to exist every day, and it's everybody. It's everybody. It's your old men, old women, boys, girls, babies. They resist to
Mm.
exist. So you have to you. We need an Arab Spring right now. We
Mm.
need a genuine Arab Spring right now. Look at what has happened in Egypt. I was following the global march to Rafah.
Mm.
Um, I don't know what has happened. I don't know if it has fizzled. I'm not seeing any reports um,
Yes.
on the progress of that. So Arab nationalism has failed. If October 7th hadn't happened, Saudi Arabia, which is one of the most colossal disgrace
Mm.
to Arab unity, Saudi Arabia was on the verge of normalizing relations with Israel under the Abraham Accord. So that would have meant that the whole Palestinian issue would be dead. It's October 7th that revived the issue. Remember, Netanyahu went to the UN a few months before and showed a map of the new Middle East that didn't include the Palestinians.
Mm.
So Arab nationalism has failed, and it's the same thing as you mentioned Africa. It's the
Mm.
same thing within our African black community. Why is it that we're so divided? Why is it that
Mm.
we're so fragmented? It was fragmentation that enabled the slave trade, according
Yes.
to Walter Rodney, because there were so much divisions within Africa at that time that the Europeans were able to play off sides against each other.
Against each
Why
other.
is it that we are so divided that we play into the hands all the time of the oppressor? Why can't we come together? Why people close rank, They
You,
close
you know,
rank.
I want to pinpoint something right there. What you said about the closing rank, because I was thinking it through at one point, and I said, okay, they came to the shores of Africa, and they got away with some, say like a year or two. Then I said, then shouldn't African nations then realize and say, hang on a second, let's work together, let's pull together and stop this, you know? But that didn't happen. That didn't
No.
happen. There wasn't a
Mm-mm.
working together, and that fragmentation seemed to be still happening in a way whereby we are seeing there's still rape, there's still destruction in Africa in key areas, because you look, okay, you'll type into Google or whatever, um, tell us about Burkina Faso, one of the poorest countries. Then you say, tell us about the riches or the minerals of Burkina Faso. Then they tell you all these golds and minerals and everything like that. You have to say, because
Mm-hmm.
hang on a second, something is not adding up here,
Mm-hmm.
Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not adding up.
And the strategy of divide and rule
Mm.
has always been our downfall. And it's not just, as I say, this, as we're saying, it's not just a downfall of black people. It's a downfall of non-black or non-white people. You know,
Yes.
it has been. When do we understand that in our case with Africa?
Mm.
Even just this week, I got into an argument with some African Americans because they were celebrating Juneteenth,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I see where they were saying they were exclusively owning the holiday. They said it's not a Caribbean thing, it's not a Pan African thing. it's not a continental thing. This is ours. And I said to them, but you're playing into the strategy of divide and rule.
Yes.
The enemy, the enemy wins. Because if Juneteenth is it's Emancipation Day, and we had
Yes.
Emancipation Day. So what are you saying? Are you saying that okay, it's a public holiday in America, so is it that the people from the Caribbean or other or people from Africa should go to work that day? What?
Mm.
Because they already have this narrative that about reparations, that reparations is there's we are our own worst enemies. We're our own. We don't even need the white supremacists to divide us. We divide ourselves.
Yeah. So what you're trying to say, like in certain situation, the white supremacists will just stand back and watch and say, at this moment, let them divide themselves, or so let them fight against each other. At the same time, when rightly and truly, what should be happening is closing ranks with the Caribbean, closing ranks with African nations, because when you have something like Black History Month in the UK, there's a level of division that takes place because the, it tends to always lean towards persons with a slavery background through the transatlantic slavery. When a Nigerian or a Ghanaian or so like that come to the UK, they can't relate to that. I can relate to it because I came from Jamaica, the Caribbean, into the UK. But someone coming straight from Africa can't relate to that. So therefore, it's like there need to be some level of joining up, But
Mm.
it fits into the thing whereby some are now called slave baby. So we fight against ourselves. I'm trying to say.
And that is kind of what I was
Mm,
leading back to what I was saying in the beginning. This is how you classify the struggle. Because
mm,
if you place it within the broad context of imperialism, and it doesn't matter if Nigerians weren't slaves or
mm,
Nigerians weren't part of the slave trade. It doesn't matter.
mm,
What matters is that it's a global oppression against African people, against
mm.
black people. And if you're black, you're an African. That's your roots.
Yeah.
I see people in Africa, in America, African Americans trying to distance themselves from Africa.
Mm,
You know, there's that whole school that they weren't slaves. I don't know. It's as if slavery to them is this badge of shame. It's not a badge of shame to me because I
mm,
didn't enslave myself. So
mm,
I'm not going to look to whitewash my history so that
mm.
I remove myself from the slave narrative. So if you as I said, it's very important to put it
Mm.
in the broader context of
Yes.
imperialism, colonialism, and imperialism. So not don't break it up into these little parts of the slave trade and that it is the struggle against European, Euro America
Yes.
colonialism, West
Mm.
imperialism. That's a struggle. And that is what unites us, and that is what connects all of us, even people
Yes.
who are not black.
Mm. Well, Donna, we're on the hour now, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining on. Those who are joining on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram, I can see activities over there, and on YouTube. Of course, remember to share and like this on TikTok. Tap up the screen and share. In our last moments, and we have talked about the failings, and we are talking about the fragmentation, which we've seen a similarity with the Middle East. We are seeing it also like in Africa, and we'll talk about the Middle East war, the Caribbean global ripples, how it affects. We are seeing the CARICOM, which is not uh, uh, under the leadership of Andronis. We're not going to see any major change or any
Mhm.
major move. What do you see as a solution then, Donna? What are some of the are 3 or 5 things that need to be is it reparation? What do you see as some key solutions that can sort of deal with this impact in a certain way?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, you didn't hear what I said, Donna?
No, not the last part.
Okay,
No.
no, I said what do you see as the solution to deal with the impasse in regards to how the world is now and the impact of the Caribbean. And I mentioned also that you have the fragmentation in the Middle East. You also have the fragmentation in Africa. And we are talking about the fact that governments tend to be distanced from the people. And even though, and they want to take it on a particular route, but do they listen to the people in between that time, that 5 year period? Or they want to wait until election time and they start to come out in all their droves trying to sell people something to get them back in their books. What do we see as as some key solutions from your perspective?
Gosh. I see $64 million question. I, yes. I I the Marxists believe that you need to educate and organize the people.
Yes.
Marxist theory say that you need to I have a Marxist friend that I get into a lot of arguments with because
Yeah.
I say to him that it's kind of outdated.
Yeah.
Because for example, last 2 years ago we had the political directorate gave themselves a 200 to
To 300. Yeah.
250.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. I, I thought, and I should add that the public sector got 20%.
Mm.
And I foolishly thought that, okay, this must be it. People must object. People must get up, stand up. Even if you're sitting down, get up, stand up, put in your Gideon boots, and get
Yeah.
out there in the street. And nothing
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
Nothing happened. So I say to him, I keep saying to him, I don't, this thing about educate. What more can, their oppression is right in front of them. They don't need any
Mm.
education. Their oppression is right in front of them. We are losing our beaches in Jamaica.
Mm.
And we have a fellow advocate who is very involved in Dr.
Tell me his
Demon
name.
Taylor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And he's got
yeah.
what's the organization?
Mhm.
Beep something. Be
Ja,
something.
ja,
Yeah.
Jabem.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Uh-huh.
yeah. And they organize protests. And I know, speaking for myself, and maybe I shouldn't use me to define them. But I know that if I know that them taking away our beaches, don't have access to the beaches. And if I hear about a demonstration, I'm going to be there.
Mm.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to find a way to be there because I have to register my opposition. So
Yes.
as I said, I don't know what it is that will wake up the people. Lenin it
Mm.
was who said that sometimes nothing happens in 100 years. I'm paraphrasing. Sometimes nothing happens in 100 years, and then 100 years happening until in 100 in a month or a day. So
Yes.
maybe that is it. The
Mm.
people, I console myself and I said, okay, nothing before the time, you know, nothing before the time. So it's not like we're going to drag them kicking and screaming into the struggle. They're going to have to decide for themselves to come into the struggle.
Mm.
Only them can do that. So I just don't know, because the only weapon we had then was protest, and to me that's not working. It
Yes.
only works. It only works when it's in their interest to listen to us, and
All right.
apparently, and most of the time it's not in their interest, so they just go ahead and do whatever it is that they want, as if they know that they have some source. Their power comes from some source, and there's just nothing we can do to
Do
stop
you
them.
think? Do you think that in a way that people are somewhat, I'm gonna say this, somewhat traumatized, somewhat scarred, somewhat scared, somewhat don't want to rock the boat because they're trying to live. And I shouldn't say live, trying to survive. Because surviving is different from living, you know?
That's it.
Surviving is different from living. But then I
That's it.
remember, but then I remember this. Harriet Tubman, you know, that time when those struggle was going on. Okay, let's move away from Harriet Tubman. Let's talk about those times when things weren't good in a sense. Let's juxtapose it like today. But they had a felt need of wanting freedom. So they recognized that freedom was so necessary that they fought for it. Harituban said, well, they didn't know that they were a slave or whatever. That's why they didn't want freedom. But is it that
Mhm.
people now, like in Jamaica, don't recognize, don't understand, not feeling it in a way, or they feel it but believe that they're helpless?
It's interesting that you say that, because it's that's exactly how I see it. I keep saying to people that there are maybe two set of Jamaicans.
Mm.
One who can, jet off to wherever, and it's not just the corporate, the 12 families that
Mm.
what you call it there, control corporate Jamaica. There's a level there, below them,
Mm.
that they can go to whatever, $60,000 beach
Yes.
weekend, emancipation day or emancipation weekend, and they can go to these wherever, pay whatever. So they're fine. And
Mm.
then you have now the majority of the people who, they are so disillusioned, they've been so
Mm.
bruised by the system, that they have lost all faith in the system. That's why they don't vote. That's why they don't vote. And their only concern now is to survive within the system. They don't care about changing it anymore, because they just feel that it's hopeless. It's not going to change. So all
Oh, wow.
they are concerned about is, I'm just going to do what I can to survive. So
Mm.
they have totally disassociated themselves
Wow.
from the struggle. And those, I think those we have to bring back, both groups. But as I said, and I don't know how, I can't say how we're going to do that. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, as you
They are
said,
going they are
as you said, it's $1 million question. You know, if we can solve it, if we can solve that problem, we become wealthy.
yeah. So
it mm,
I don't I hope that it won't be long, you know, because
yes,
I would like to see the change in my lifetime. So I don't want it to be 100 years from now, you know.
yes,
I want to see that the tables turn.
mm,
I really want to see the tables turn. But I don't know when that will happen. There is a date. There is an incident down there down the road where everybody going to wake up,
yes,
and that day going to come. And
yeah,
I tell
they,
you, when that day come, when that day come, it will be hell to pay. It may be hell to pay, because all
yes,
these years of bottled up frustrations are just going to burst out, from within.
an implosion to a certain extent, if anything like that.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, Miss Mattis, it was a healthy discussion um, on this particular. And while I like to sometimes have these conversations, I don't like to just have the conversation for conversation's sake, but there are conversations which are like gems that tend to build on something, and I think what came out of today is the fact that the fragmentation, eh, the those who okay those who actually close ranks are happy for the
Mm-hmm.
fragmentation to continue,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they keep playing each other against each other to ensure the
Mm-hmm.
fragmentation take place. We're seeing it in the Middle East, we are seeing it in Africa at the same time, and all eyes are now. I keep saying this all the while. Eyes are on the Middle East, eyes are on Ukraine, but yet at the same time there are issues which are happening in Africa, right? But all our eyes are down that side, and when there are other fishes which need to be fried. And that's why I so strongly believe that African nations need to pull together. CARICOM need to pull together, and somehow they can form a block. Are you gonna bell that cat, Miss Mattis?
Mm-hmm. It was Amilcar Cabral who said that if you lose your African connection, you lose your royal connection. And once
Yeah.
you lose your royal connection, you cease to be a world people. And that is what has happened to us. We cannot be a world Africans, as Africans cannot be a world people if we don't unite,
Mm.
unite. I mean, people saying that, oh, I don't care about Pan-Africanism, I don't care about Africa. Just this week I had somebody telling me that I don't care about them in Africa because they sold us into slavery.
Mm.
Mhm. And it's education. Education is important because,
Mm.
yeah, there are
Yes.
states who participated in slavery, but there was resistance. And
Yes.
you have to contextualize the slave trade, because it's not
Mm.
just Africans didn't just up and sell their people. They didn't just up and sell their people. There were aggravating reasons why that happened. Europe had the upper hand. So that as black people, that's our
Mm.
problem. We've lost that royal connection. So we're
Mm.
fragmented. And once we're fragmented, then we cannot operate on the world stage without unity.
Mm.
We have
Mm.
to we have we have to unite. We have to unite.
Okay. Well, on that note, we got to unite. Miss Mattis, want to thank you so much for joining today. And for this very invaluable discussion. As you know, I'm a member of Advocates Network. I'm a member of National Integrity Alliance. I'm a member of all of these advocates group from my side here in the UK,
Yes,
because
yeah.
because I believe it's very important that we form effective allegiance and alliances. with
Very
Jamaicans back
important.
home.
That's it. That's the microcosm of the unity that we're the unification that we're talking about. You know,
Yes,
all advocates groups have to just come together and support each other.
yes, yes, definitely.
Form a
And
form a
and
force. Mm.
and of course, Miss Hamilton is somewhere close by me in the UK at
Mm.
present. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get
Mm.
to see her. Might be passing
Yeah,
through. Yeah, but
yeah. Rosalia is so busy. You know,
yes,
so
yes,
busy.
yes.
Mm.
Any last word before we go, Miss Mattis? Any message that you want to share? You know, as any last word you want to share?
Mm. I I never things are happening so quickly. You know,
Mm,
I grew up in a time when America was the only superpower, dominant superpower,
yes.
and I, along with seeing the first a black man become president of the United States, something I didn't think I would ever see in my
Mm,
lifetime. So, along with that, and the rise of China,
mm,
the decline of America, decline of Euro America, then let's call it the decline of the Western North Atlantic Alliance. That
mm,
decline because the empire is falling. And
mm,
I never dreamed that I would see America under threat. I remember my sister used to buy Time magazine, and she used to, as I said, I grew up in this house where they discuss a lot of politics, and she
mm,
used. I remember her mentioning this American politician called Strove Talbert, and when it was nearing the end of the century, he used to write these pieces saying that the next century is America's century. The
mm.
21st century will belong to America. But that is changing. So my final words would be, don't give up,
Mm.
because the most impossible thing, dream impossibility, because the
Yes.
most impossible thing can be waiting down the road, can be waiting down
Yes.
the road. And I long to see a new world, a new world.
Yes.
The old world is dying. I don't know what the new order will be like, but I hope that it is much more paternalistic, kinder, one that respects sovereign nations, one that um believes in equality. I,
Mm.
I I really hope that, and I have a feeling that it's not too far off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you have the impossible, you take off the I am, and it's become possible.
Right.
Most definitely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Uh,
So,
well,
although sometimes, I am moody. I'm very moody. I'm an
yes.
Aquarian, so I kind of be moody. So 1 minute
Mm.
I am positive, and the next minute I am just have no hope. But
Yes.
it's I believe in that there's a new and brighter future ahead.
Amen. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining, and thank for Miss Donna Mattis. She's an educator, Pan-Africanist, Palestinian advocate, and member of the Advocates Network, who joined me tonight to have this discussion on the Middle East and the Caribbean global effect. Feel free to rewatch the show. It's going to be on Spotify. It's going to be on Amazon, podcasts, and also on YouTube as well, so you can watch it, and I'll upload it there. Miss Mattis, I want to thank you so much. Have a good day in Jamaica. It's still sunshine there. It's bedtime for us in the UK.
I Oh, it's so hot. It's so hot. Yesterday the temperature was 44 degrees Celsius. It's
44 in
brutal.
Jamaica.
Yeah,
We
44
were
degrees
we,
Celsius.
we weren't so bad,
Mm,
but tonight it's 24. It was 24 today, and tomorrow is going to be about 25. So we're having a
uh,
little nice thing at
yeah,
the same time.
yes, yes.
All
Thank
right,
you so much for having me. I
no
really
problem.
enjoyed the discussion.
Pleasure is mine,
Thank
and thanks
you.
for
Mm,
Rosemary to link us up as well. Okay,
yeah,
God bless you.
yeah.
Bye bye. Take care.
Okay,
Take care,
bye.
Miss Manny. Thank you. Bye
Yes.
bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. We started off at a late time because I had some other events, but thanks for Miss Mattis that came in today and discussing it. Well, one of the things that we found very interesting was the Middle East and Africa. You know, there's a slight similarity with the level of fragmentation, but without a doubt, um, the world need to really pull together. You just wonder, as she said, there's totally a disconnect, a disconnect with leaders, and a disconnect with them and the people. And you wonder, is only every 5 years or 4 years or so that the connections start. Then leaders start to go around the place, saying promises, promises, and promises, and everything like that. And I'm talking about Jamaica, but also otherwise in the world. You know, their prime minister wanting to bring people into war, want to bring a nation into war, and people are just not for it. But yet at the same time, they're going on a particular route. A friend of mine said, Silburn, what these leaders need to do, they need to just go into a room and have fist fight. I went further and said, yeah, man, and get some rock stone, just like, you know, and fight it out. But don't bring people, don't take people with you down these particular route that you want to go to. You know, the whole world is not, when you think about it, the whole world is not in favor of wars. The whole world is not in favor of conflict. The whole world wants peace. We have these guys who are at the top of the chain with their ideological things and their thinking and their perception, want to bring people into war. As if we haven't had it before. People need to rise up and tell them to stop. People need to rise up and tell them to stop. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining. My name is Silburn Sidio. Walk on the Talking Sip Saturday night. And welcome. And for those who are on YouTube and Facebook, thank you. And remember to like and share and have a smashing Sunday evening. And God bless you. Bye bye.